Okay. Okay. Everybody ready? Okay. Anyway, well, I want to welcome everybody. My name is Kathy Hall. I'm the executive director of the Nebraska Statewide Independent Living Council. This series is being presented by the Nebraska Disability Advocates. It's a group made up of 22 different organizations. I will not bore you with all the names. If you're interested, you can contact me at Kathy at nesilc.org. Melanie, could you please put that in the chat box? Anyway, I would like to thank Melanie Davis. She will be helping me organizationally with working in the background. She's indispensable. I mean, I couldn't do this without her. There is a list of keystrokes for using Zoom available in the Dropbox. Melanie will put a link to the Dropbox in the chat feature. Depending on the device you're using, your toolbar will either be at the top or the bottom of your screen. We do have 2 interpreters, and I've got them spotlighted. But if you want to make it bigger for yourself, you can also pin them on your own screen. We do have closed captioning available. On your toolbar, you have a little box with C, and there's a little arrow beside the CC. You do enable closed captioning, enable subtitles. All sessions are being recorded, and we do have a YouTube channel that Melanie will also put that address in the chat box. If at any time during the day you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box. We'll monitor that. And you can use the chat for just talking to other people or whatever you need to do. And at this point, I am going to turn it over to Brad Murins. Brad, you're muted.
Yes, I am, which is probably usually a good thing. Well, thank you, Kathy. My name's Brad Murins, and I am the Public Policy Director for Disability Rights Nebraska. I want to welcome you to our Disability Education Series webinar, where we'll be focusing today on accessibility for people with disabilities in Nebraska. But rather than having a lecture about the specific tenets of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is the seminal legislation which guarantees access for persons with disabilities, our seminar today will introduce and highlight a couple of different aspects of accessibility. We will introduce and highlight our state ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, task force chair and state ADA coordinator, Gloria Edens. In addition, we want to connect accessibility and the greater outdoors of Nebraska, given the seasonally adjusted time of year. Tiffany Gerber from the Nebraska Game and Parks is here to help make that connection. But first, I want to break the ice with a short video which describes the impact and the legacy of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So, without further ado, let me cue that video up and get out of the way.
There is no sound. Brad, the sound is not on.
All right, let me see if I can find the fix here. Is that?
ADA. We convinced them that we should make it a great big celebration since there's so many people directly affected by the passage of the ADA.
Well, it was a glorious day.
You turn it up.
1990. Clear blue sky, the sun was out. 3,000 or 4,000 people, many with disabilities and their families, on the south lawn of the White House. And the president was on a platform with leaders of the disability community to sign the bill into law.
I don't know how you describe the signing ceremony. We had people everywhere. They were on gurneys, white canes, wheelchairs, walkers, and seeing-eye dogs. I mean, any device that helped people get around was represented that day. We covered the White House lawn for sure.
The most people ever gathered on the White House lawn for a signing was July 26, 1990. Never been that many people there for a signing of a bill before. Biggest group ever in the history of this country.
I had the pleasure and the real privilege to ride to the ADA signing ceremony with John McCain. So we drove right into the White House, and then we walked outside and became part of the masses. The South Lawn was packed with people. All of them there had worked and worked and worked to see the law pass. So it was a shining day and a shining moment. And I mean, history and the weather just cooperated in a way you don't see very often.
I sat with Senator Kennedy in the 89th row back or something like that. And, you know, all the pomp and circumstance began, and we were kibitzing with each other and kind of looking over the crowd, and and Kennedy leaned over to me and he said, Pat, I said, yes, Senator, I got a little problem here. And I said, what's that, Senator? He goes, what happens if he reads the bill before he signs it? I said, don't worry. I mean, the senator knew that nobody really understood the impact of what this piece of legislation was going to do.
I now lift my pen to sign this American.
And then the president
Act,
ended his brief remarks with that clarion call, let the shameful wall
Let the shameful wall
of exclusion
finally
come tumbling down.
finally come tumbling down.
And that sent a tremor through the entire crowd.
Best moment was President Bush was there. He was signing the ADA. Evan Kemp was on one side. Sandy Perino was on the other side. And there was a priest, Reverend Wilkie. And he had no arms. So the president signs the legislation, and then he hands the pen. He hands the pen to Evan, hands the pen to Sandy, and then President Bush hands the pen to Reverend Wilkie with no arms. So he picks up his foot and grabs it with his toes. I'm like, it's the perfect moment right there.
There was a lot of pent-up emotion and anticipation in that crowd. And when the president finally put his signature on the bill, a great roar of approval went up, and it was extraordinarily special. And then the rest of the day was given over to celebration. A lot of folks who had put in years, decades, trying to reach the point that was achieved that day, let their hair down and had a lot of fun.
Just this feeling of we did it. I mean, here we were, having been told for so long how powerless we were, and here we were with the President of the United States signing this document that was our Emancipation Proclamation, essentially. It was just a fantastic feeling.
It was one of the most electric moments in time. It was like we were transported to another place. We were 20 feet off the ground. 3,000 people were 20 feet off the ground. It was like a tremendous party. A very controlled, love, respect, joy, accomplishment, satisfaction. Our time had come. We finally were recognized as citizens of the world.
I just thought of how much my brother had been discriminated against all his life because of his disability. When you see something like this and you see the president signing, that goes through your head. You think about this. You think, well, maybe this isn't in time to help my brother. But you think about how many other people won't have to go through that, because of this. I just thought, gee, this is something that I think is going to unleash a lot of people with disabilities in this country to do things that they never thought they could do before.
I had the sense that the moment was one that I would never forget, that there was a ceremony, and the ceremony was very important, but the moment was much more than that. The moment was a recognition of the rights and abilities of people with disabilities, a recognition of respect for people with disabilities, a recognition of the end of discrimination against people with disabilities, and that the spirit of that, the feeling, whole crowd, was that in American Sign Language there's a sign for that, and the sign is, it's called pa. Pa. That's how you make a sound when you sound it. Pa. And that was a pa day. That was the day that you guys saw us as your peers and not as someone who needed your help.
Brad?
Yes, Kathy.
Okay, your video ended.
Yes, I know. I'm on it. So we just wanted to show that to give a little background or set the stage for the importance of the following discussions. So I want to introduce our next presenter, Gloria Edens. Gloria is the chair of the state ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act Task Force, and is our statewide ADA coordinator. We wanted to highlight this agency, talk a little bit about what it does, and anything else that Gloria thinks is important about the task force and the coordinator position. So again, let me get out of the way and hand it over to Gloria. Gloria, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Good afternoon, everybody. With me today is also Tiffany Gerber. We put together a slide presentation, so that's what we're going to do. I have loaded it with pictures, so hopefully it uploads on your computer just fine. Otherwise, there's a PDF copy of it in the Dropbox. So let me see if, oh, I'm sorry, Kathy, I don't have the ability to share my screen. We had to log in under a different, because we lost connection on the other computer. So we had it set up ahead of time and then we totally lost connection and had to rejoin.
Okay, you should be able to share your screen now.
Thank you, Kathy. Nope, I still can't.
Okay.
Oh, there it's letting me. Yay! So let me get this going for us. So this is me. I'm the Nebraska ADA coordinator for the state of Nebraska. I've worked with the state of Nebraska for 18 years. I started out with Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, actually as Tiffany was my boss. So I give her some grace because she dealt with me for way too long. I was housed at Game and Parks for 11 years. Then I moved on to Department of Administrative Services, and I was housed in a small division called the 309 Task Force. And in short, the 309 Task Force takes cigarette tax money and we repair state buildings. Specifically deferred repairs, your HVACs, your windows, those type of things. But we also can use that money to make buildings ADA compliant, which I'm excited to prioritize those needs for people. And then 2 years ago, about late 2017, they came to my desk and said, hey, would you be the ADA coordinator for the state of Nebraska, in addition to being the business manager for the 309 Task Force? And I was passionate about ADA compliance, so I said yes, and that's how I became the Nebraska statewide ADA coordinator. So I want to give an opportunity to let Tiffany introduce herself before we go into all of our slides.
As I said, I'm Tiffany Gerber. I was with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission.
You're not, you gotta get close to the microphone.
I am the business manager with the engineering department at Game and Parks. I have worked for the agency for 19 years. As my role now, I oversee projects. I manage any upgrades on new projects and repairing needs, which includes the 309 Task Force in some of those roles to bring things up to ADA accessibility. We do a lot of things around the state as far as hunting, fishing, parks, everything's included in those programs.
I want to make sure you can hear me. I know switching between two people sometimes causes problems. But I want to talk about the ADA Task Force. The mission of the task force was the mission of the state of Nebraska ADA Task Force is to coordinate the efforts of state agencies, boards, and commissions to comply with Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. We have 98.
Gloria, excuse me.
Yes.
Your voice keeps fading out.
I'm sorry about that. We seem to be having connection issues with the state. I don't know what that is about, but I will try to speak very clearly so I can be heard.
Okay.
The mission of the state of Nebraska ADA Task Force is to coordinate the efforts of state agencies, boards, and commissions to comply with Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. We were created in 2017 along with the ADA coordinator. The committee consists of 13 members and shall be comprised of any combination of the following. So we have the executive director of the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. We have the executive director for the blind and visually impaired. We have the administrator of the 309 Task Force, which happens to be my boss. We have the DAS State Personnel Director or the Director of Employee Relations. We have the Chief Information Officer for the state of Nebraska. We have 3 nonprofits that serve or represent families or individuals with disabilities. We have the Executive Director of the Equal Opportunity Commission. And then we have 3 members that are individuals who have disabilities. The ADA Task Force, even though it's really, really young, when you think about how long we've had the ADA, the law was signed in 1990, and how long the ADA Task Force has actually been in effect, we've had a huge impact across the state of Nebraska. We've been able to invest $7 million in ADA upgrades in our state-owned buildings and campuses out of that 309 Task Force for Building Renewal funding. So all of those projects are kind of competing against each other. Do we build a ramp to a building or do we repair the HVAC system? And with the advocacy of the ADA Task Force, we've been able to prioritize so many of those ADA projects that were in such great need. The social media, we now use closed captioning on all our social media posts, and I'm hopeful they're using alt text as well. That was my #1 complaint when I started as the ADA coordinator in this position, was that they just weren't closed captioning the information they were putting out to the public. And it's amazing to see that progression of me having to call those agencies and say, hey, you posted this yesterday, you didn't close caption it, can you please go back and get that closed captioning on there? And they've all learned and they all look at it differently. And I get very few complaints today about closed captioning of state social media posts that are not closed captioned. We also, if you've noticed, the governor this last year, he's had numerous press conferences. They all now include interpreters. That was not standard practice 2 years ago. We've reached out to them, we've talked to them between the advocacy of myself and the advocacy of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Commission. You will notice that Francis is typically at every single one of those press conferences interpreting for our deaf and hard of hearing individuals. We've also worked hard at website improvement. We strive to meet WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. We strive to meet 2.1, but we meet 2.0. As those websites are upgraded, it's forefront on how we work to make sure they're accessible. We have shared resources. So although my focus is state of Nebraska programs and services, if somebody calls me about a private college or about a city or a town inside Lincoln, I'm going to do my best to help them. And if I can't, I'm going to find somebody who can. So all these resources that came to the table through the ADA Task Force, I have all of those. Being invited to disability education series, like what I've been doing for the last few months, as well, give me more resources to share out to our constituents. We want the state of Nebraska open for everybody. Reasonable accommodations have been created and have been improved. So initially when I took on the ADA coordinator role, reasonable accommodations typically happened within employee relations. And they realized we have a subject matter expert within our building. Why aren't we utilizing her? So now hiring managers or managers in general, or even the person that needs reasonable accommodation within state employment calls me, and we have great conversations of how to move those forward, what is reasonable, what we can do to make them the best employee they can be within the state of Nebraska. But the #1 impact that we have created or that has happened through this ADA task force and through the ADA coordinator is awareness. Every time I speak with people like this setting or any other within our state, to our state employees and to our state directors, and even as the information trickles up to the governor, awareness happens. People are looking at the world in just a little bit different lens, and that is a win for everybody involved. So I wanted to give some pictures of some of the things we've accomplished with that $7 million we've invested in the state for ADA access just through 309 Task Force for Building Renewal funding. This picture here is of a ramp that goes to the State Historical Museum. This museum is a building owned by History Nebraska, and it is housed at Fort Robinson State Park. And if you've ever been out to this building, they used to have one of those little lifts on the back of the house to get people that use a wheelchair into that museum. I'll give a moment for all the wheelchair users to groan about the lift. So I don't like lifts. And when I started with 309 Task Force for Building Renewal, I said, no, we are not putting lifts on building. This is not accessibility as it should be. We want everybody to go through the same door. We want them to be able to accomplish it on their own. So we built this ramp, we got rid of the lift. You now enter the same door that everybody else does. You don't need an able-bodied person to run into the building, ask for the employee that has the key to the lift, and then have that employee not know how to use it at all. So this is definitely a win, and I'm excited. I have not been out there since it's been completed, but I am excited to go out there and view this house. Also in design right now is a similar ramp to get us into the George Norris House in McCook. This is another History Nebraska building. I've been to this building numerous times over my time with within the Task Force for Building Renewal. And I have never been in that building because it is not accessible. So I am so excited for that ramp to get done and for me to be able to go in that building and see the history of Nebraska buildings. Peru State College. This is a ribbon cutting on their campus just a week ago, honestly. And I don't know how many of you have actually been to Peru State College, but this college was built on a hill. And over the years of us going to this campus, it has become a joke that a week before we go to this campus, Gloria needs to work out her arms. It just wasn't. So many times for us to just to inspect the buildings, they'd have to load me up in a car, drive me around to the handicapped accessible parking on that particular building, park there and then get out. With this final section of ramp being completed this last week, I can now go anywhere on that campus using my wheelchair with the entire group. I want to give a shout out to Jesse, who is the man in the blue jacket and using a scooter. He has been on this campus for 3 years and has tirelessly and constantly improved the access to this college campus. He's brought so much awareness to the people around them and the struggles they faced on this particular college campus. And I'm so excited to see this through and have it completed. And they have a couple more projects in the works for that campus, but this one specifically was huge to get access to the entire campus and all of its buildings. We have to talk about bathrooms when we talk about accessibility. I don't know. Nobody wants to be in a building and ask, where's your accessible bathroom? And be told it's 2 doors down in the building down the street. And yes, that has happened with state buildings. Omaha State Office Building had 1 accessible bathroom. It was on 3rd floor. It was a unisex bathroom. And that's always where I was sent when I had to do work in the Omaha State Office Building. Now every floor, I think every floor, has an accessible bathroom similar to this one on top of it's pretty, if we want to talk about a bathroom. But we have invested a lot of money in bathrooms across the state just to make those accessible. So my list over the last couple of years include the State Patrol Chadron Readiness Center, the Building Division IMS building, Geneva YRTC cottages got accessible bathroom. So it used to be if they had a client that used a wheelchair, he had to be put in one specific cottage that was ADA accessible. Now that person can be put where it's appropriate to be put instead of based on his disability. We've also done ADA bathrooms at the Hastings Regional Center Administration in Chapel. We've done it at Game and Parks, Chadron State Park Trading Post, History Nebraska, the John G. Nyhart Center Museum in Bancroft, Nebraska. We've done one at Peru State College for the TJ Majors Education Building. We've done it at Chadron State College for the library, University of Nebraska-Lincoln, Old Fathers Hall, and Veterans Affairs Western Nebraska Veterans Home Residence Room. Can you imagine that we had a veterans home that did not have accessible bathrooms in the residence room? How did that make sense? But we were able to prioritize that and get them done. And we're really excited for the simple act of now we can use a bathroom in any of those buildings. So Tiffany's going to talk about the Game and Parks Commission. I worked here for a lot of years. And I remember people coming to my desk and asking, hey, will this work? Well, yeah, that works for me, but it might not work for somebody else. As we all know, every single disability is different. And what I learned going out into our great state, into our great parks, is that being able to see it and realize, hey, that works for me, makes a huge difference. So I've loaded this with a ton of pictures of some of their facilities. But I'll let Tiffany talk about what great things she has going on at Nebraska Game and Parks.
Well, as Gloria said, we've been trying to make improvements.
You need to move closer, Tiffany.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. As Gloria said, we've been striving to make improvements in ADA accessibility throughout the state in many different areas because, as she said, we're different than most agencies. Our first slide is of Platte River State Park. This is a cabin that was made accessible. We added a bathroom onto the exterior so that we had room. This was actually funded by the 309 Task Force Building Renewal. We redid the kitchen features, the accessibility from the outside. A picnic table and fire pit were added exterior that can be used by anyone. Some of these cabins out here and within the rest of our state are older and don't meet the needs or didn't meet the needs, and we are rehabbing all of those. We're bringing them around. Everything that's new or anything that gets updated, we're adding accessibility to. So that's one of our new ones. This is Chadron State Park College, or Chadron State Park Cabins. This was also funded by the 309 Task Force. We have on the left, you can see we have a rustic cabin. These were the original, Chadron State Park was originally a camp, a children's camp. It's the oldest state park that we have in the state of Nebraska. This is our centennial year, and we're doing a huge celebration at Chadron this summer that we'd love everyone to come out to. There'll be events, a 2-day event here. We're also doing one at Victoria Springs. That's the oldest state recreation area, and Arbor Lodge is the oldest state historical park. So as you can see on the left, this is a rustic cabin. They're smaller 2-bedroom cabins. We took out some walls and added a larger bathroom and a better living area with a new kitchen that meets everyone's needs. On the right, these are our duplex cabins. We added parking, obviously. We redid the bathroom and the kitchens. So there's a lot of needs here. Along with that, there's a group facility that was added where you can rent the facility and use it for any functions you might need. I know some people are having graduations coming up. They have weddings, they have meetings and everything. So we have a lot of places around the state that you can hold group functions that you need to. The current slide is our Nebraska Outdoor Education Center. That's here in Lincoln. It has an archery range inside, which you can see. It's got classrooms that you can use, and they can be expanded to different sizes. It's got a pistol range. We have outdoor facilities there. We're just putting in a new outdoor classroom. There's lots of functions we teach. We have youth camps, we have skills camps. It's open to the public. You can come for a day, you can get a membership. We have lots of outdoor experiences, for you to try to be involved in anything. There's a couple pictures of some fishing piers out here. With every lake restoration we're doing, an aquatic rehab, we're putting in accessible fishing piers. There's dock systems, there's viewing platforms. So for those of you that like to fish, wonderful. You can get out there. If you're not a fisherman, it's just gorgeous to go out and just look at the scenery, bird watching, people watching. We have these all throughout the state. So it's beautiful. Here's a sunset. I mean, it's just nice to be out. Some of them that we've showed you, this one's Mormon Island out by, right off the interstate in Grand Island. See on this number 1, this is Windmill State Rec area. It's a whole walkway across the front where you can fish, you can picnic, you can just enjoy, with yourself, your family, kids. It's a great area to be involved in. Number 2 is Wagon Train, which is right out here south of Lincoln. That's a newer one that was a lake restoration. 3 is Louisville. As you can see, somebody's enjoying fishing out there with their dog. 4 is Olive Creek. We have these all over the state. They're all a little different. Some of them are covered, some of them are open. They all are different. We have piers that you can go out over the water. We've updated parking in many areas, and it's a work in progress. We're constantly updating. This is Fremont State Rec area. It has accessible parking, accessible walk to get to the pier. A lot of features in the area are accessible. This is actually, I am not sure where this location is, but we have been putting in these concrete toilets throughout the state. They are long lasting. They're in some of our areas that are more rural, we have a lot of vandalism. With these concrete toilets, they can't light them on fire.
They're to hold up better, and we've added handicap parking, accessibility. Anyone can use the features we're putting in. This is a new kayak launch at Conestoga State Reservoir. We did a restoration out there, an aquatic restoration for the lake. We have fishing piers, boat docks, there's all kinds of things out there. This is a new feature that we're trying. It won't work for everybody, but it's wonderful for some people. I know Gloria was talking about she wants to get out and try it. Here is our new Schramm Education Center. It is out by Gretna. It was the Exarban Aquarium originally. We added on and restored the whole facility. It's a wonderful place that everyone needs to visit. There's fish tanks, there's animals, there's reptiles, there's things all throughout, and everything has been made accessible. Everyone can get in there and enjoy it. This is Platte River State Park. We put in these new glamping cabins. They open up to the public. All of them are secluded, so you don't see any neighbors by you. You're in the trees. They open up. They're all of them are ADA accessible. Your bed can actually slide out. As you can see in screen 1, your bed can actually slide out. You can sleep outdoors if you'd like. A sunscreen comes over top. The bathrooms, it's beautiful. There's fire pits outside. Everything is accessible, and it's secluded. They're gorgeous.
I want to try that too.
And this is also Platte River State Park. We've put in a new outdoor playground with natural features. There's wood chips and rubber matting there. There's accessibility, there's swings, there's a picnic area, a covered pavilion, there's things to climb on. Also at Platte River, we have Crawdad Creek. It's a trail that goes all the way around Jenny Newman Lake here. You can come out, the trail goes all the way around, you can come out, there's platforms all the way through. It's a water system that runs down from up the hill, and it trickles down through the brook all the way down to this lake. And there's several different layers of platforms that's accessible for you to go up and look down at the fish and just enjoy the nature. There's frogs and other reptiles. There's ducks and geese out there. It's just a really peaceful, serene area. This is also Platte River State Park. We've been updating all of our camping, and to show you, Platte River has so many new updates to make everything accessible. This is a camping pad. As you can see, it's got a bump out concrete slab that includes your fire pit and your accessible picnic table. You have plenty of room to be anywhere to get around. You can hook up your camper on the back that's still on the concrete.
You have these at multiple state parks, correct?
Absolutely. We have these all throughout the state, and every time we do any enhancements at a park, at any camping enhancements, we are adding more and more ADA camping. It's every state park will have them, or state rec area will have them. It's just a work in progress. They just keep coming. Yes. Our pools. We have several pools at our state parks. All of them have as federally mandated, all of them have the lift. We have Niobrara. Ponca has in the last 5 years, a new pool that has really cool features, and it's a pretty setting. It's real nature oriented. Mahoney obviously has the pool. They have, in the future, we look to put in a wave pool. Not a wave pool, it has a wave pool, Lazy River. But it has a standard pool too with the lift. Chadron State Park, Fort Robinson has a huge indoor pool that's heated. Platte River State Park has the spray park that is 2 levels, but it's accessible, and it's all flat area with really neat spray guns and different features around the area. Trails. We are working, we have a trail coordinator now. We have trails across the state, and we're working to make those accessible. Some of them are to different levels. The White River Trail from Crawford to Fort Robinson is a neat trail. It goes all the way out to the park, goes into town. that's a neat area. A lot of people go every day along that trail. Ponca State Park has accessible trails. We're looking at, there's a lot of options coming in the future. We're looking at Lewis and Clark putting in accessible trails. Arbor Lodge, there's a lot of things in the works that will be coming. Okay, some of the cool things we have lots, but this is just to name a couple. Fort Robinson, one of the premier facilities in the state for the historical aspect. We are putting in a new ADA ramp at the lodge with help of 309 task force. It's much needed. The one that's there, is starting to decay, and we have a contractor, and as soon as things slow down this summer, they will be out to replace that. It will be neat. It will hopefully mesh into the scenery, the historic aspect a bit. Campsites, we're putting campsites all over the state. A lot of them are in place. We're updating as need be. We're adding more. We're doing everything we can as we can get around to the areas. Get toilets and shower houses, everything we put in now, and we have put hundreds in the last few years. Everything we put in is accessible. They have the accessible parking. They're all up to standard, so it's wonderful. Everybody can use those facilities. Playgrounds, as I showed you at Platte River State Park, we have put that. It's a huge, wonderful playground. We're putting in a new playground at Fort Robinson, at Chadron State Park, Windmill, Mormon Island. There's a bunch of areas, and they're still to come, but they will all have accessible features on them. Group facilities, we have a brand new one that is just finishing up at Mahoney State Park. As I said, at Chadron State Park, we redid that group facility. We have more facilities coming, and everything we put in is accessible. Platte River Scott Lodge, we're working with 309 right now. It's a restaurant, it's a meeting room, it's multifunction. At this point, the bathrooms are down on the lower level. You have to go out and around the building to get into them. We are adding in facilities on the same level, so everyone will be able to use those facilities that are there for day use, that are there for the restaurant or meetings. So that's a wonderful addition that they're helping us with. Trails, as I said, we're updating trails all the time. Seeing some areas, it depends on the terrain, but we're adding in as much as we possibly can. Indian Cave, we redid a shower house, and we're now remodeling the other shower house to meet ADA standards. The cave, oh yes, the cave. The cave. We have, I don't know if anyone's been down to Indian Cave State Park, but we have the cave down by the river bottom. It had the walkway up to the cave. It was flooded out 2 years ago, and we are waiting for FEMA approval, but we are going back. We have a design to put in an accessible walkway all the way up with a big platform, a viewing platform, so that everyone can see all the features that are there. It will be the same for everyone to be able to. We're doing the same at Smith Falls. Everything we're putting in, we're trying to accommodate everyone in the same way.
So that's our presentation. Hopefully you can hear me. Sometimes switching back and forth doesn't work. My name, my direct telephone number, my email is listed there. With Game and Parks, sometimes the best thing to do is call and ask. This is what I need. What park provides that? Because as she said, it's a work in progress. We would need billions of dollars in funds to get everything done all at once. So I am so excited that they're continually working forward to make the parks open for all. And just progress in the last 5 years has been tremendous. So if you have any questions about a park you want to visit and what facilities are there, call the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission at their main number, 471-0641, or you can shoot an email to outdoornebraska.gov /contact. And they will either answer the question if they know, or get you in contact with the superintendent at that park to be able to answer those questions. Kathy and Brad, I want to thank you so much for having us part of your presentation. And And I got to click the stop sharing. There you go. It's back to you, Brad. Oh, let's answer questions.
Thank you, Gloria. And thank you, Tiffany. That's some really, really good information and very useful information that people can really take home with them and to work with. So I know that there are a couple of questions. One of the questions that was raised is, are the individual parks websites updated to include information about their specific ADA accessibility improvements?
They are not. They are not. If you're looking for a campsite or a cabin on the reservation system, it will show you what is accessible and what is not. The rest of the park in general does not say specifically what features are accessible or not. If there's something specific you're looking at for a specific area, you would need to either call the parks office or call the park, the general parks office in Lincoln, or call the park specifically.
I was excited when we were talking about putting this presentation together. One of my big things is trails. My kids always want to go on the trails. And I know, sorry, Kathy, can you hear me okay? You're muted. Am I good? I know switching back and forth causes a problem.
No, I think you're good.
Oh, okay, thank you, Brad. So one of the things we were talking about when we were talking about it, because my kids love to do the trails, and every time we go somewhere, they're like, oh, what do we do with mom, right? Because they want to go hiking. Game & Parks is working. I don't know if you've ever gone to the federal park site for trails. It's amazing. That's a gold star right there, our standard that we want to achieve. And that's what we're working towards at Game & Parks. They're not there yet. So we hope in the future that it will show you what is the surface of that trail so that you can make a judgment on how far down. So maybe the wheelchair user can go down a mile and the rest of your family, the able-bodied folks that want to show off, can go another 2 miles down the trail that's more rugged. Trails are not a black and white under the ADA. You know, we want people to enjoy hiking to their abilities. So that doesn't mean every trail needs to be fully accessible, but at least they're marked and we know, hey, I can get this far on that trail before you guys ditch me. That's a step in the right direction and they're working towards that. I'm really excited to see that happen.
Another question, thank you very much. That's very good information. Another question that was raised was, how does one reserve, or is there a special process to reserve one of those accessible rooms or cabins or area?
Sure. We have a state reservation system. Most all of the major park areas are on it for camping. All cabins are on the system. For camping, most of them are on. There's a few that aren't, and we're getting them continually updated onto the system. Several went on this year for the first time. Yes, you can go at outdoornebraska.gov, and you can go into the reservation system, see what's available, see what's accessible. It will tell you that. There's also a phone number that's on the website for a reservation call center, and they will help you. CJ is wonderful. She will answer any questions, find out what she doesn't know. Beyond that, if you have specific questions, you could call the park directly if there's somewhere you want to go and you're not finding enough answers.
I have to reiterate that CJ is amazing, and she does have my phone number. She calls me often. Hey, will this work?
So how does one, or how would one, if there were a situation at a park where a feature was broken or a feature wasn't accessible, or someone wanted to make a recommendation, hey, you know, it would be great if this thing or whatever at this park would be accessible. Is there a way that that citizens can raise those issues within the park system?
You bet, Brad. I'm going to answer this one for her. So Nebraska Game & Parks Commission does have its own ADA coordinator. And I have that contact information. So just call me. If you're at the park, talk to the superintendent. If something's not working there, they're going to want to get it fixed. So talk to their office staff or whoever you need to if it's broken specifically. Otherwise, if it's something, hey, we want to see this in the future, we'd like to see this improved, give me a call. I'll reach out to the ADA coordinator for the state of Nebraska for Game & Parks. Sorry, I'm the state of Nebraska ADA coordinator. I'll reach out to the ADA coordinator for Cayman Parks and see if we can't push that up on their priority list a little bit. You know, it's all a work in progress. And as we all know, it comes down to funding. So always advocate that, hey, we need money for this program or that program, so we can keep making the huge progress they've made.
Wonderful. Another question. So what types of issues, going back to the ADA task force, what types of issues or does the task force address, or grievances? Is this a task force where someone could raise a grievance, and what type of grievances would be applicable to the task force?
So I will handle any grievance that is with any state program or service. Under Title II of the ADA, we need to make sure our programs are accessible to all. So that doesn't mean necessarily that 100% of our buildings need to be accessible if we can provide you the same program and the same service as anybody else. We want to get to where our buildings are 100% accessible, and that's what we're striving to do. So I take any complaint, grievance about any of those issues. There's a grievance form online. If you look up State of Nebraska ADA Coordinator, you're probably going to find me pretty easy. I gave you my direct email. Sending me a grievance is as easy as composing that email and getting it sent to me. You can call me if that's your preference, or you can go through online and fill out that form online. Whatever is easiest for you. I love to have the conversation. I love to find easy solutions, and I love to prioritize stuff that needs to be prioritized so that we do better for the state of Nebraska constituents. You're muted.
I'm muted. I am muted. Of course I'm muted. When I want to ask a question, of course I'm muted.
Of course, Brad.
There was a comment made. Gloria, could you work on getting proper keyboards, mouse, rising desks, etc., within the state office building? They need,
sure.
they need
So
help getting keyboards and mice.
That falls under reasonable accommodation. If you have a disability, we can get that happening pretty quick for you. But it's on an individual basis based on under reasonable accommodations. Workspaces don't necessarily need to be accessible. They need to work with the employee that's working there.
Wonderful. Are there any other questions that anyone wants to submit? Any comments? I know there were lots of comments talking about the beautiful pictures that you had. And I could appreciate you know, having those pictures. It's nice to be able to see the actual outcome and to see what types of improvements have been made. That was
right. I like looking at those pictures and thinking, will that work for me? And that's why I put the pictures up there, because what works for me might not work for somebody else, but what works for somebody else might not work for me. So they really get a visual of, does this work? Got a comment on the photographer. I will admit that a few of them were our pictures, but a lot of those were from Nebraska Land that we use within Nebraska Game and Park. So if you don't have a Nebraska Land magazine subscription, go out and get that and enjoy those pictures every single month.
Another question was raised. Does the ADA extend to the Capitol, especially the Warner Chamber?
The Capitol. So the Capitol is a historic building. So there's a little bit of some gray area. So the key to the, and I'm trying to think what room is a Warner building, excuse my ignorance on that one. So the key is, do you have access to the program and service that is being presented in that Warner chamber? If there's a specific, we need this, shoot me an email about it and let's see where I'm at. I can't say that I've been to that chamber recently. I've been able to get everywhere I need to go within the Capitol. They did put an additional elevator on the north side of the building that is way better than those itty bitty ones that I can barely turn around in the main chamber. But that one only goes up to 3rd floor. But that's where most of the people, constituents would need to go to access their government.
And the legislature has their own ADA coordinator, correct?
Probably. I can't think of the name off the top. I have not had a complaint for them, so I haven't had to make a call. But I will tell you, most of our state agencies have somebody that's been assigned to be the ADA coordinator for that agency, especially our larger ones. I will fully admit that most of them are doing other duties as assigned. Anybody who's in state employment knows what that means. We all kind of, but they're doing the best they can, and they do have a passion for making sure they're accessible.
So what I hear you saying, Gloria, is that you're saying almost all of, or especially the major agencies of state government have their own internal ADA coordinator. And
right.
Go ahead.
And I have most of those listed, as long as we haven't had recent staff turnover. I have most of those listed. So a lot of times when I get a complaint, say it is about Game and Parks, I'm going to reach out to Game and Parks to get that solved. I can't possibly, we have 3,300 buildings within state government, even though a lot of those are Nebraska Game and Parks pit toilets. We do have that many buildings within our system. So there's no way I could keep up on all of them as one person. So I rely on those agencies to fix those problems when I bring them to them. And almost always when I call them, they're like, how can I do it better? How can I fix it?
Another question was raised. What about private business and the grandfather clause? Does the task force work to deal with that?
There is no such thing as a grandfather clause. So if they say that, tell them they're full of it, however you want to word that. There is no such thing as a grandfather clause. There is a little bit of gray area for historic buildings, because we don't want to destroy the historic nature of a building. Even with that ramp that I showed you on Fort Hartsuff, we had quite the struggle through the Historical Society to get that ramp put on the side of that building, because they didn't want to change the look of the building. So that's why it's ran off the side, so that you can take a picture of that museum and it'll look like it did 100 years ago. So there's a little bit of gray area within Historical Society. But the minute a private entity specifically does any type of renovation, 20% of their money needs to go to ADA accessibility. The state of Nebraska, I'm not an ADA cop. I don't carry a baton. I can't slap their hands, even though I want to. So there's not an enforcing entity on that, other than filing a complaint with the Department of Justice. They're the ones that are supposed to be the enforcer for those rules. But there's some leeway if they need to provide ADA access, if it's not too expensive or too cumbersome to do so. That's how the law is written. So if it's a mom and pop bar and they need an elevator put in, that elevator is going to cost them $80 to $120,000. Is that reasonable and feasible for them to do? Maybe not. If you have a multi-million-dollar corporation that refuses to put in an elevator and they just made a $2 million upgrade on their building, they could pretty much get their hands slapped by the Department of Justice. But I do not deal with private entities. If I get a phone call, I'll reach out to them. I'll be happy to tell them they're not meeting the letter of the ADA and that maybe you want to fix it so you avoid a lawsuit. But I don't have any real cop powers. I'd be happy to be granted those, though.
It might be needed to be a change in the law, right?
There you go.
Another question was raised. Are there funds dedicated to increasing the awareness about ADA improvements so people with disabilities know what is available?
The short answer on that is no. The long answer is I'm constantly promoting it within Department of Administrative Services. If you follow their Facebook, they are many times advertising, doing social media communications out there that say what we have upgraded and what we're putting those funds to for ADA accessibility so that the state of Nebraska is open for all. Game and Parks, I'm kind of trying to convince them to promote it a little more, but we'll get there. And I think that's a huge asset to Nebraska to broadcast what we're updating and how much we are improving. I know we're behind. I'm not trying to sugarcoat that, but the more progress we make forward, that's great news, not bad news.
Are there any other questions or comments? Don't be shy.
Questions?
Well, Are there any other, Gloria and Tiffany, do you have any parting, anything that you want to leave with?
Just get out there and enjoy Nebraska.
Absolutely, whether it be just getting out there, enjoying the outdoors, fishing, hunting, parks, bird watching, just get outside.
And if you don't know how to do something, call Nebraska Game and Park. They have experts in their field. They can teach somebody to fish. They can teach somebody to hunt. They're a great education department within Nebraska Game and Parks. Yeah, we want everybody to enjoy the great assets of the state.
Absolutely.
And I think it sounds from what we talked about today, it sounds like that the communication channels are open for citizens to not only take advantage of and find out what's available, like calling the superintendent or talking to the superintendent, calling the Game and Parks Commission and getting that information, having that dialogue of all the improvements that have been made. But it also sounds like the communication channels are open for citizens to raise grievances or to make recommendations or to say something's not right. How can you help me? And I think, and interacting with you all like I have over the years, I know that you are open to recommendations and to having those conversations and want to do the best that you can do and make Nebraska as accessible in all aspects as it possibly can. Go ahead.
I heard a while back there is absolutely no ADA expert, and I'm going to stand on that sentence. So I don't know everything. I don't even claim to know everything about the ADA, but I am more than willing to learn, and I'm more than willing to look it up and find out what's best practice, what's the best way to do it. So please reach out to me and see me as a resource for everybody within the state of Nebraska.
Wonderful. Kathy, do you have anything that you want to leave us with?
Okay, thank you. And Gloria, Tiffany, that was great. Love seeing your pictures. I mean, I want to go check out a few of these places.
Definitely.
You tell me which fishing pier you want to meet on, Kathy. I'll meet you out there.
Oh,
you
yeah,
did
we'll
forget to
figure
mention.
that out.
I got one thing I got to mention about all those fishing piers because I've done them a lot. If the water level is really low, those are floating fishing piers. So if the water level is really low, if we've had a really dry year, that ramp is going to be a lot steeper than what code requires. So you want to go when the water is a little higher because then the ramp's not quite as steep. Because it's
See, I've got a power wheelchair. I can do steep.
Stop bragging, Kathy.
Anyway, I want to thank you both so much. Like I said at the beginning, we are recording this session and it will be placed on our YouTube channel. Melanie will put that into the chat feature for everybody. Or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at Kathy at nesilc.org, and I can help you find your way where you're going. Our next session will be on June 3rd, and the name of it is Housing Rights, Responsibilities, and Remedies. And it'll be from 1 to 2:30. If there's a topic you would like to see us do a session on, please put it in the chat, or again, you can contact me at Kathy at nesilc.org, or you can reach out to any of the other organizations that are involved. You do have to register for each session. So I hope you will join us on the 3rd of June. And thank you so much, Gloria and Tiffany again.
Thank you for having us.
You got to do better about advertising yourself.
I'm working on it.
Okay, well, everybody have a good day. And we are going to end this.